Alright, we are in section 2.5, Reasoning in Algebra and Geometry. Alright, so let's look at the solve it. It reads, follow the steps of the brain teaser using your age. Then try it using a family member's age. What do you notice? Explain how the brain teaser works. So, if you keep on going, you should get the same answer. So, let's see, as we're going through this, why is that true? Because there's obviously a mathematical reason why you're getting the same answer. Alright, so before we start, we'll go over this in depth tomorrow. There are certain properties. The first four you should be fine with. The last four, reflexive is saying that A is equal to A, where A, B, and C are real numbers. So real number is equal to itself. Symmetric is the reverse. If A equals B, then B equals A. You can switch sides to the equal signs. Transitive. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Which is what we did in the previous sections. When Asa lived in Accra, because of the transitive property, we can also say that she lives in Africa. So let's go into problem 1. Alright. Problem 1 states, okay. What is the value of x? So we have a picture here. We want to know what the value of x is. Justify each step. Okay, so we are given that angle AOM is supplemental to MOC. Angle MOC. So that means that when you add these two up together, you get 180. Alright, so if they're supplemental, this should be a statement. If they're supplemental, that means that the measure of angle AOM plus the measure of angle MOC equals 180 degrees. And that is because the definition of supplementary. Angles. So, step 2. Now, we know that the angle measure of AOM is 2x plus 30. And the measure of MOC is x. I equals 180. And this is by substitution. Alright. Third step. We can combine our like terms. So they use the distributive property here. Right? And then the last step, or the second to last step, subtracted 30 on both sides, and so this is by the substitution property, subtraction property of equality. We'll put equal sign for short, and then divide by 3 on both sides, you get x equals 50, and that is by the division property of equality. So you can see here we have a statement and a reason. Now, you guys probably already knew you would take these steps, but here are the reasons to justify. And this is going to lead you into the 2-column proof that we're going to see soon. Alright, so why don't you try the got it? Alright, so problem 2. We want to know what is the name of the property of equality or congruence that justifies from going from the first statement to the second statement. So, as you see, the first one is 2x plus 9 equals 19. Then we get from 2x equals 10. So therefore, we subtracted 9 on both sides. So you get the subtraction property of equality. Alright, so that was from algebra. So now let's look into letter B, where it goes, angle O is congruent to angle W, and angle W is congruent to angle L. So we can assume that angle O is congruent to angle W. Angle O is congruent to angle L. So therefore, we can use the transitive property of congruence. Because angle O is congruent to angle W, but angle W is congruent to angle L, we can assume that angle O is congruent to angle L. Alright, last one. The measure of angle E is equal to the measure of angle T. Also, the measure of angle T is also congruent to the measure of angle E. So, because they flip-flopped, this is the symmetric property of congruence. This is the symbol for congruence. Alright, so why don't you try to got it? Now we are going to problem 3. Let me move it up. Alright, so problem 3. You have a given. You're given that, well, first you're given this picture. You're given that the measure of angle 1 is congruent to the measure of angle 3. You want to prove that the measure of angle AEC is congruent to angle DEB. Now, obviously looking at the picture, you know that that's right, because angle 1 is congruent to angle 1 is equal to angle 3. But I want, they want you to show the 2-column proof and the reasons why. So, you always start with your given. Measure of angle 1 is equal to measure of angle 3. Your reason is your given. The second part, second step. The measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 2. And that's because of the reflexive property. You can just say reflexivity. Okay. The third step. Now we want to try to, what's the next step? How do we get from these two and the measure of angle 2, how do we get that to move to try to get to our end goal right here? So, we can say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. And that is from the addition property of equality. Because we went from this step, from 2, we added measure 1, the measure of angle 1, and on this side we added the measure of angle 3, because measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3. Alright, the next step. 4. The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle AEC. And the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of DEB. And this is because of the angle addition postulate. That's just pretty much saying when you add the two angles, you'll get this big angle. So the fifth step would be, because angles 1 and 2, angles 1 plus 2 equals AEC, and measures angles 2 plus 3 equals DEB, we can say that angle AEC, the measure of angle AEC is equal to the measure of DEB by the substitution property. And you're done. So, you see what we did here was, we started with our given. And then, because our end goal was to prove that these two are equal to each other, we had to somehow get measure of angle 2 in there. So we used the reflexivity property. And then we had to relate measure of angle 2 to measure of angle 1 and 3, which is by adding them. And then we're able to connect it with the angle, and then we're able to say that those two angles are equal. So why don't you try the got it?